Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Frankie Flores, Director of the UNM LGBTQ Resource Center. We want to begin by sharing our land acknowledgement. Founded in 1889, the University of New Mexico sits on the traditional homelands of the Pueblo of Sandia. The original peoples of New Mexico, Pueblo, Navajo, and Apache, since time immemorial, have deep connections to the land and have made significant contributions to the broader community statewide. We honor the land itself and those who remain stewards of this land throughout the generations and also acknowledge our committed relationship to Indigenous peoples. We gratefully recognize our history. I'm super excited to be here with you all today. I'm super excited to have Laz giving a presentation. And before I introduce Laz, I just wanted to mention that this is a kickoff of a series of events we will be doing for Black History Month. Again, knowing that Black History is not just one month, it is every single day, it is every single experience. And I but I'm grateful for Laz for sharing their wisdom with us on self-care and kind of dispelling myths of what self-care is. I also want to acknowledge that we do have two interpreters with us today in our efforts to be as inclusive as possible. Um, Brianna Gomez with the UNM Signed Language Interpreting Program, and Kim Corwin with UNM Accessibility Services. It is my honor to introduce our speaker tonight, Laz Letcher. Um, Laz is a MA student who lives on Tewa Pueblo land in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Laz works at the University of New Mexico teaching courses such as peace studies and working at the LGBTQ Resource Center. Laz's research focuses on Black transgender history, Black and Indigenous solidarity, and the legacy of white supremacy in addiction and recovery. Laz has toured domestically and internationally with ensembles and as a solo artist. A recent film project, Stages of Tectonic Blackness, is now being shown in museums around the country. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Laz Letcher.
Thank you, Frankie, for that lovely introduction. Thank you to the interpreters for being here today, and thank you to all of the attendees. So I'm really excited to give this talk. I've done it for the last few years at the LGBT Center. Self-care is something I am very passionate about and something I was very bad at when I was an undergraduate student especially. I almost failed out of undergrad several times, mostly because I didn't know how to take care of myself. Um, One of the big myths that I always had around self-care was that self-care is for rich white people, and that is not the case. So let's crack into it. Hopefully that is showing. Love yourself. Self-care workshop. Laz Letcher. That's me. So let's start with the history of self-care. This is one of my favorite pictures of all time. That is author, warrior, poet Audre Lorde canoeing in Germany somewhere. And on her shirt is a picture of the famous communist Emma Goldman. And so much of this about this picture I love. A black woman smiling, a black queer woman smiling, being in nature and taking care of herself. So I'll start with a quote from her. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Self-care was often seen as a thing of indulgence in activist circles, but then it became very clear that burnout is real and could negatively impact our communities. Self-care began not as a capitalist commodity or classes to buy, but an effort to stop intercommunal violence. I know I can speak for myself. Well, I have coworkers here who know this as well. But when I am hungry, I am a monster. I am not fun to be around. So one way I can make sure that I show up healthily and fully as myself is to make sure that my blood sugar is regulated before meetings, because nobody wants a hungry Laz at a meeting. So like I said, it has its roots in Black feminism, and the basic understanding is that we can't pour from an empty cup. A really great model of this is the Black Panthers in the way that they're constantly showing up for themselves in their community, doing free lunch programs, doing free healthcare clinics. A lot of folks don't know that the Black Panthers and the Young Lords were actually the ones that popularized the use of acupuncture in recovery spaces for addiction. They took over a Bronx hospital. That's another story for another day. It is very cool. um, so it's about taking care of ourselves, like I said, so that we don't cause harm. And this has really helped me actually practice self-care, is by making it less about me and more about my community. Knowing that I'm taking care of myself heals me, heals my family, and even heals my ancestors. So one thing I talk about a lot in my work, especially in addiction recovery, is a toolkit. So a toolkit is a series of tangible or intangible things or practices that help me maintain my baseline of self-care. I have the things that I can turn to in emergency, and I have my daily rituals and practices that help me maintain just a level of well-being. So this talk is especially for my fellow students. I am a graduate student. I cannot afford fancy things like weekly massages or spa dates or whatever Gwyneth Paltrow is selling this week. So everything that I'm going to offer today is either free or low cost. And I just want to reiterate again that self-care is not selfish. And if you ever feel guilty about self-care, like I did for a lot of my life, just remember that when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of your community. Goodbye for now, Audre Lorde. So here's just some ideas if you're, I'm too broke, I don't have enough time. Like I mentioned, since 2016's election, self-care really entered the lexicon and was really divorced from its radical Black roots. They've become commodities. It's become powders and pills that you can buy, classes that you can take, and it's been made really inaccessible to Black and Indigenous, people of color, and poor communities. You don't need to bust the bank to take care of yourself. You can start with what you have right where you're at. So some things that are absolutely free that you can do: take a nap. I'm always yelling at my college students to take naps. They are absolutely free. You are probably sleep deprived, and it fuels your brain and your soul. There's an incredible Black organization based in Atlanta called the Nap Ministry that creates and shares beautiful events and works around the importance of napping, especially in the Black community, and how it is a radical act to take care of ourselves. Like Audre Lorde said, it's an act of political warfare. Like when you take a nap, throw up a little Black power fist. It helps. Meditation is huge. It's cheap. It's free. I am someone that cannot sit still, as you can probably tell by the amount I move my hands while I talk. And so something that's great for me is walking meditations. There's more than one way to meditate. There's more than one path to self-care. Mix and match. Do what's right for you. Walks or runs are great. I've been trying to get into the practice of every time I get off a Zoom call to just walk around my backyard. Because Lord knows I'm staring at a screen far too long. And thank you for staring at a screen right now to listen to this talk. Gentle stretching, super easy, just at your desk. 10 seconds can do wonders. Sing your face off. I'm into vagal nerve theory, which is what controls our fight or flight mechanism. It's super in right now. And ways to relax that impulse. And singing actually helps. Our diaphragm is located close to the vagus nerve, and it's a super cheap way to calm our entire nervous system down and feel safer and more in our bodies. Another free option is to learn about healing plants in your area. I was an herbalist's apprentice this summer, and learning about all the amazing medicine that grows on Tiwa Pueblo land made me feel so connected to this land and to my body, and also gave me a lot of free tools to feel a lot better. So just to break things down into body and mind, see if local massage schools or natural clinics offer discounts or even free services. The Natural School of Medicine in New Mexico, pre-COVID, offered free massages. Also, SHAC has a massage therapist that's very affordable for students. If you're a graduate student, you get 2 free sessions a semester, which they don't advertise enough. So get your money's worth. Check out YouTube for free classes. I have been so surprised at how YouTube has replaced my gym. You can look up pretty much any body practice on there for free. Exercise shouldn't be torture. Do what feels yummy to you. Personally, I have been getting back into Taebo. I think it should have a comeback. Taking care of your mind. So most insurance plans, especially since COVID, have started offering more extensive coverage for mental health services, and I hope that this is something that sticks around post-COVID. SHAC, our Student Resource Center, or our Student Health and Counseling Center, is still doing counseling during the pandemic. Zoom therapy is not as awkward as I thought it would, and it might actually be more accessible to you. There are other online options that are also free or low cost for students. Feel free to check those out, and one thing I encourage everyone to do is to not be afraid to ask for help, and not be afraid to ask for help, especially monetarily, when you need it. A lot of clinics are set up to be able to offer services to low-income folks. Just ask. If you don't think you have enough time, try stacking your self-care items. For instance, like go for a walk while you're listening to a recovery podcast or a podcast about self-care or something that makes you feel yummy like storytelling, and do it while you're spending time in nature, or go for a walk and connect with an old friend, or take a bath and listen to a podcast. These are all things I've done today. So using the multi-toolkit in your smartphone. If you are accessing this talk, you probably have a phone or a computer that you can access some of these things. I just want to start by saying community is an essential part of any healing journey, of any self-care practice, and that is probably something that is hurting right now. Start a group chat from people from school that you haven't seen in a while, from other programs that you're in, from other services that you do. Keep a list of numbers of people that you can call in an emergency, or of hotlines that you know are always able to pick up the phone and help you out. I know the phone can weigh 1,000,000 pounds, especially when you're in a crisis, but not feeling alone is a really essential part of self-care and at the root of it. One app that I really like is Habitica. Here's a really cute picture of it, and it's a way to list the things that work for you. So when you're really in a rut, when you're really down, it might be hard to think of what's the next best thing I can do. And so Habitica, you can list out all of the things that make you feel better, like reading, flossing, drinking water, petting a dog. And if it's been a while since you've done those things, they'll change colors. So it'll turn red if you haven't done it in a while. It'll be green if you're doing it daily. But if you're really stuck and you're feeling really icky, it can be hard to know what to do next, and Habitica is a great way to keep track of what you've dropped lately. Some of my other free apps right now, I love Insight Timer. It's a free meditation app. They have a playlist that's all Black, Indigenous, people of color teachers, which is really hard to find, but it's hours and hours of just Black and Native voices. I grew up in a church where meditation was frowned upon, and it's taken me a lot of time to reconcile with that. But if you are part of a faith or religious tradition, they have a lot of meditations specific to those too. Like I mentioned, just use what works for you. Mindfulness meditation is the most popular meditation out there right now. It's probably what you'll see on most of the apps. And for folks who have trauma, it can be one of the hardest to get into. You are not broken if a method of healing doesn't work for you. It just means it's not the right one for you. It's not good or bad. So explore different types of meditation. Like I mentioned, walking meditation, there's compassion meditations, or just pretty much anything out there right now. I mentioned YouTube already for exercise. It's also great for guided meditations or breathing exercises. That's another great option for people who can't sit still like me, doing active breathing exercises. I listed EFT here. That stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's a series of just gentle tapping you can do on different parts of your body that helps regulate your nervous system and calm you down. It's something you can do anywhere at any time, and it is absolutely free. Down Dog is an incredible app that is free to students right now. It's a completely customizable yoga app. They also have different workouts on there, but you can choose the length of time, the type of practice, even what kind of music you want to listen to. It's versatile. It's amazing. I love it. And it's also accessible as well. They have chair yoga options. You can choose certain body parts to emphasize. And it's, again, free for students. It's incredible. TAO stands for Therapy Assistance Online. This is offered through UNM. You can find it on the SHAC's website. It has therapy. It also has mindfulness exercises and breathing exercises. It's on your phone. It's available at all times. If your therapist isn't there, you can try this model. And I also want to mention that any tool can become a weapon. I know during COVID I've struggled with my screen time. So you can try setting limits for certain apps, or you can have boundaries like using your phone only during business hours, like 9 to 5. I am saying all of these things, but are these things that I practice? Sometimes. So finally, I just want to highlight some university resources. SHAC, like I mentioned, is still doing therapy right now. They're also doing incredible workshops. Their newsletter has a lot of tips, and these services are free or low cost to students. Your tuition's paying for it, use it. Resource centers, we're still here. And in our case, we're still queer. Keep coming to events like this. There are so many incredible Black History Month events that the Fro's putting out. It's really important to stay connected during these times, and going to these free events is one way to do that. Be honest and upfront with your professors. This isn't a resource, this is just advice as someone that has both taken classes and taught. Honesty is the best policy, period. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. It is okay if your schoolwork is not the top of your priority list. You are allowed to have a life in school. I really appreciated when my students were just straight up honest and said, this was a really rough week for me. I did not do the reading. Is there anything I can do? And I appreciated that rather than an essay that was completely faked. Honesty is the way to go. And if you're a professor watching this, I hope that you're also able to extend some grace during this time. Your class isn't the most important thing on this planet. Making sure that your students are safe and sane is. And if we don't have what you're looking for at UNM, don't be afraid to create it. There are so many incredible resource centers and organizations, and if there's one that doesn't fit for you, don't be afraid to create it. Be bold, be brave, make things work for you. So I'll just include some things that are in my toolkit, and also this gratuitous picture of me and my very cute dog. Rituals are really important to me in maintaining my self-care practice. I start every morning with gratitudes, and I end my day with gratitudes. I meditate every single day. It can be as little as 3 minutes or sometimes as long as 20. And then I plan out my entire day. I unabashedly have ADHD, and being able to visualize every hour of my day, color-coded, really helps me figure out how I need to allot my energy for the day. And that's part of self-care too, is being able to map out your energy flow throughout the day, figuring out what you need to do to be the best you, to show up for your community. I also pull a tarot card at the beginning and end of my day. For me, tarot is a really beautiful way to kind of prompt reflections. It's not witchcraft, I promise. Okay, a little witchy. Nature is a big part of self-care for me. Especially if you live in Albuquerque or anywhere in New Mexico, we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. I also have an obscene amount of indoor plants for days like today where it's very snowy. Indoor plants also help me trick my anxiety. I used to have really bad panic attacks, so my house was set up that no matter where I am, I can see at least one plant, and I know that even if I feel like I can't breathe, I know for a fact that plant is creating oxygen, so I know it's true that I can breathe. So just a pro tip there. Daily walks along the Rio help me a lot, and just connecting with my non-human relatives. Also harvesting medicine. Music is a huge part of my identity. It's been very, very hard to not make music with others right now. I've been a musician since I was 3, making music with other people almost daily, and it's been quite the shift to learn to go it alone. One thing I do, my mom is a church musician back home in Indiana, and her church is doing YouTubes of all their services, and they'll put the hymn up on the computer, and so I've still been able to sing with my mom during this time, and that's been beautiful. So there's all sorts of ways that we can still connect with each other. We might just have to dig for them a little bit. I've also become a big fan of YouTube karaoke. This is something I learned at the center, but YouTube has almost any song you can imagine with the lyrics right there, and you can just turn your office into a karaoke bar of your dreams. My dogs are very annoyed of this particular self-care tip that I've been doing. Again, moving my body has been super essential. I've been trying to do yoga or gentle stretching every day. I picked up tennis because it's super cheap. You can get racks at a thrift store. I'd encourage you to go to Thrift a lot. The proceeds help the trans community. and tennis courts are free. Then also just biking the bosque has been incredible. Herbal support, scented grounding is great for me. Shoving herbs in my body has helped a lot, and it makes me feel connected to the earth. I always have my headphones on me when I'm panicked. Podcasts of people talking about sobriety or telling black stories really calms me down. And just doing walking meditations, even in the grocery store. I am the most zen person at Smith's at any given moment. And for my body support, part of self-care too is understanding that you have a body. So I make sure to have my medicine on me. I have a rescue inhaler that I should always have on me, things like that. I mentioned earlier, I am a monster when I am hungry, so there are always snacks on deck, and that's part of my physical toolkit. And then a water bottle. So many uncomfortable feelings can be solved by hydration, so stay hydrated. So I know this was a super quick presentation, but I wanted to leave time for people if they had questions or wanted to share anything that has helped you recently. But yeah, that's what I got. Does anyone have any questions? And I know we're on Facebook too, so I don't know if those can come in at all. And if not, it is definitely not the end of the world if we spend less time in front of a screen in this day and age. Any questions or any resources at UNM especially that I might have missed? Oh, I see a Q&A. You offered a lot, but where do you think we can start? That is a really great question. Like I mentioned, start with what you have where you're at. I encourage folks to come up with a list of 5 things that you have right now that can help you either in a crisis or maintain a daily practice. To be honest, the best place I think to start is meditation. It has completely changed my life for the better. Just starting off with short little meditations or ones that are specific to your culture can really help you ground and just are a great way to maintain stasis, I guess. But that's a great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Also, drink water. I was so anti-hydration for so long, and y'all, we live in the desert. Please drink water. Any other questions? My sleeping puppy just woke up, so sorry if you hear some puppy sounds. Any other questions? Again, I encourage everyone to read the works of Audre Lorde. The black roots of self-care so often get erased, which isn't a mistake. So I think it's really important to have these discussions, especially during Black History Month, to cite Black women and all of the incredible work that they've done and recognize that caring for yourself is not a privilege, it's a birthright. The last half hour is for you to go out there and do some of these practices yourself.